Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Angus Hout, and this is a bit of a different episode. We've got a guest today, probably one of the nicest guys out in the world, Dan from Hockey Fights. How's it going, buddy?
Well, Angus, you sold me so highly already. I don't know if I can keep up with that.
Yeah, that's really all I know about you. You're a big Oilers fan, you're Hockey Fights guy, and arguably the nicest guy on the internet right now.
Who's telling you these things? Well, I
Just
appreciate you saying it. Yeah, it's a life that we live, right? You're running lanes with the Jets and with the all around our socials and everything, and then they've got me running lanes with Hockey Fights now, yeah, for 4 years. And of course, yeah, working over at Oilers Nation is was always the dream, and it was always the goal. And so yeah, I'm living the dream 5 years later.
right on. How did you end up getting to work for Oilers Nation and Hockey Fights?
Well, I was living out in Halifax, and I just started following these guys early on. Way back in 2006, I was heavily involved with like Sportsnet's forums. Sportsnet used to have hockey forums, and that was my pre-Twitter days. And so anyways, got kind of on board with the Oilers Nation guys from afar. And when I moved back here, I just started showing up at every one of their events, telling them that I wanted to work for them, that I wanted a job, and I just became incessant to the point where during the 2017 playoff run, of course, our first appearance in the playoffs in quite some time, I believe the number was 11 years. I got to host some parties for the nation, just because they were short on bodies and people getting tickets and stuff. So yeah, it was just kind of, it started just from a grind and an annoyance, and here we are now. Like I said, I started working with Oilers Nation, worked out of the basement, shipping our clothing items to all kinds of different nations. So I was sending clothing to Jets Nation fans and Flames Nation and Canucks Army and all the across the country and down into the States. And I did that for 5 hours a week for a couple of months, and then the opportunity came around to do a lot of work with Hockey Fights and start to kind of take that over. And yeah, then as you do with a small company as we were back then, you just kind of wear hats for everything. I've produced podcasts. I've hosted travel events with 50 people going down to Las Vegas. I've gone to Germany and Sweden with the nation and watched the Oilers over in Germany and Sweden. So it's a pretty unbelievable ride that I've been on, and it just keeps going. And I don't know when it stops, but we'll enjoy it until it's done.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of folks who have worked for the nation just kind of end up getting on with it just through weird different lanes, especially before things were bought out and we are now owned by whomever we are owned by. I can't keep
Playmaker.
track. Playmaker. Well, I'm glad I know.
We are the Playmaker family. Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. And so now that we have business daddy and business mommies over at Playmaker, they are making sure that we are good and tight and ready to go. And they don't hire a lot of Dan. We don't hire a lot of Dans off the street at parties anymore. But those people we do find them. And Angus, I don't even know your story. I'd love to hear your story at some point.
Yeah, well, long and short is I was a big fan of Oilers Nation. Like I grew up in Alberta and moved out to Winnipeg, out to Manitoba 6.5 years ago now. So the Oilers Nation was kind of my connection to home for a long time. And then I went to broadcasting school and I was just like, that Wanye Gretz seems like a cool guy to interview. He's got so many he's got his hands in every kind of jar that you can name. Like he's in restaurants, he's in Oilers Nation doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'll interview him. 3.5 hours later, and I had a great podcast with him, and he's just like, hey, you should write for Jets Nation. I was like, well, I don't like those Jets a whole lot, but sure, why not? I want to work for Oilers Nation. Like that's the dream, but
Yep.
the whole pandemic's going on, so it's kind of hard to work for anyone right now. So
That's fair. And you know what? Winnipeg fans are some of the best fans. I have a small place in my heart for Winnipeg. Early days in my time at the Nation, we happened upon a fan of the team that reached out to us through Jets Nation. This was back when I was running Jets Nation's Instagram and Twitter and everything. I'm just going to try and hold it up there. Carter Jansen was his name, and his friend. Oh man, the name is escaping me right now, and I'm embarrassed. He's probably watching this and making fun of me because we hung out and watched the game. But anyways, he had reached out to us through Jets Nation, and his friend had been killed sadly in a car accident just before they were to be able to go to a Jets home opener for the year previous. And so this was back, of course, in 2017, 2018. And so at the start of the year, he reached out and asked if Jets Nation could help out with getting the word out about wanting to put this Carter jersey on a tour around the arenas in the NHL. And of course, I jumped on board with that right away. And the Jets organization was absolutely wonderful. And I get choked up even just thinking about it, because they said, no problem, whatever you need, as long as you can get here. And so I, myself, and the Jets Nation managing editor at the time, Game Time Art Middleton, we headed to Winnipeg. We drove 13 hours to Winnipeg and slept over that night, and then that morning we were up at the crack of dawn, and they gave us a tour of the arena, and we were to have met some players and met some management and ownership, but I believe that day Nikolai Ehlers signed a long-term contract, and so they ended up scrambling some of that stuff. But then the president of the team gave 2 tickets to Art and the gentleman that was with me, and I feel so awful that I can't remember his name right now. I'm looking at his face, and it's escaping me, and I'm embarrassed.
So you guys,
well, I'll get you to edit his name in overwords afterwards. But yeah, so the Jets organization, Jets fans, they all have a small place in my heart. And then even at that time, back at the Pint Winnipeg, I hosted a Jets Nation watch party. Nobody knew that they were there for the Jets Nation watch party, but I sure as shoot held it. So
oh yeah, back at the time when Winnipeg had the Pint. What a time.
It was a great location, great party spot, but yeah, unfortunately not there anymore.
Nope. So you guys really stuck to the bit of Winnipeg doesn't have an airport. You guys drove all 13 hours from Edmonton to Winnipeg.
I did. Yeah, it was. Hey, you guys, it would be nice if you guys could get an airport at some point. Angus, we'd love to have you come back, but yeah. We just I don't know why we decided to do that. I guess it was just, it was an adventure, and it was a lot of fun to be able to travel with Art. And I had just started at the Nation, so I was getting used to working with my colleagues and getting to know all you guys. And so for me with Art, it was, same kind of story with Art. I think he had started even as a Dallas Stars fan, and then came into the Jets fandom or Jets sphere, and then got a job writing for them. So it's Jets fans, the Jets are they're a fun organization, just an organization that gets it.
Yeah, they really do. It's I've been a big fan, like, since kind of moving over to watching the Jets and joining the Sphere. I was like, wow, this is a team I can really get behind. And the city of Winnipeg's just a gem. I love this city so much.
So. Well, and you can speak to it better than I can, but just in my small experience with Winnipeg just feels like it's Edmonton. Like we have there's some kind of symbioticness there, and that's why I think the airport joke has so much fun, because we are so similar. We're the northern teams. We're the teams that everybody just kind of forgets about for the most part. Yes, we've been gifted Gretzky and Connor McDavid to really help bolster our repertoire, but it's I feel like the two cities are pretty similar when it comes to the people.
They genuinely are. And yeah, no, I love Edmontonians. I love my Winnipeggers. Like everybody, it was a very seamless transition for me when I moved out this way. So no regrets.
And also, Edmonton doesn't have an airport. I mean, let's just get that out there. It's out in Leduc. That's why we think it's so funny to say other teams don't have them.
Oh, I know. It's like when I got out here and I started making the joke, everyone's like, but Edmonton doesn't have the airport. I was like, yeah, you're right.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. Well, that was Coombsy who came up with that, correct?
If I had to give it to anybody, it would be Coombsy. We can't track it back any further than that, and I don't have the effort to anyway. So Coombsy gets it.
Yeah, bless Coombsy for that one, because it's confused a lot of folks out here, and they are genuinely
Well,
pissed at Edmonton. And it's like a little brother like relationship between the two cities.
yeah, that's exactly it. And you know what? Winnipeg should jump on board with our new one, or well, with Coombs' most recent one, that Toronto doesn't have any Wendy's, because Winnipeg does have Wendy's.
Wow. Yes, we are going to start spreading that rumor heavily. There's no Wendy's in
Perfect.
Toronto. Okay, so the state of what's your thoughts on the state of fighting within the NHL right now? Are you happy with it, or are you kind of whatever about
Um,
it?
it's it's a complicated subject, and it definitely, like, sitting here on a computer, not being the one getting punched in the head or not getting punched in the head, vice versa. It's easier for me to say than those guys to do. I tend to leave it up to them to tell me what the state of fighting is. But if I had to kind of give you a picture as to what's showing up on hockey fights on a nightly basis, the fights are still there. They're still happening, but they're different. And that's kind of the sentiment that I've read throughout, is that these fights are happening because of big hits. The fights are happening because or because they're, I don't know, like, it's not staged. It's just they're not as high quality as whatever people used to think were high quality fights back then. I just think that sports in general is cyclical in nature, and so it ebbs and it flows. You've sometimes you're going to have more fights, sometimes you're not, and then in those times that you don't have fights, we look at the injuries that happen as a result of that, quote unquote, as that debate rages on. I think that it's really important that the players get to continue to have the main say in the state of fighting going forward, and we as fans, you just appreciate when the guys still do it, and they do it with an impact, and it makes an impact on the game and an impact on their careers and their outcomes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's just crazy how big of an impact fighting has still within hockey. It just on a game to game basis, but like the longevity of some of these injuries from fighting. I mean, everyone's
Yeah,
seen or should have seen the Violent Gentleman documentary. Like, it's
yeah, yeah.
terrible.
It's a tough business, right? And it's one of those things that, we talk about wanting the referees and wanting the league to be able to be the ones to police it. And I think that that's something that we've been begging for since the dawn of hockey, was the referees and the officials to be on top of everything. And it's just not possible the way that we have it currently structured. I don't know the answer to fixing policing the game, but you watch, a perfect example is what happened last night with Connor McDavid and Alex Edler. I don't necessarily think that Edler came in there with any kind of ill intent, but as a team, you can't have your star player having liberties taken on them. And so in that situation, back in the day, the sheriff would come out, the Dave Semenko, I have him on my shirt, would come out, the Marty McSorley would come out, and they would deal with either Alex Edler or a teammate that Alex Edler would then have to answer to. And that's I know that sounds barbaric, and I know that sounds just basic as all heck, but it just is the answer right now, because suspensions don't do anything. Because okay, so Alex Edler gets suspended for that knee, and he plays the next two games, or doesn't play the next two games against the Calgary Flames and the Anaheim Ducks. Wow, he really learned his lesson, and he doesn't want to do that ever again to Connor McDavid. We're past that point, I think, of suspensions being the answer, and two referees, two human beings on the ice being the answer. I don't know what the real answer needs to be, but I just know that the guys keep saying, and the players that are playing the game keep saying, that fighting is the way to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, yeah, anyone who knows actually plays hockey, not some fool like myself who just sits in my living room watching the fights and getting excited about it.
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, I speak from experience. I just taught myself to skate last year at the age of 35. So I am not the expert by any means. All I do is watch hockey fights all the time, day and night, all day, every day. But what do I know more than anybody else? That I just have a platform, and I have the opportunity to talk to Angus on Jets Nation Radio.
What is it like to have the world's coolest job though?
Well, it's a fantastic job. It's a dream to be able to casually interact with these guys on a on a day-to-day basis. I get to talk to players just through DMs and through Twitter, and then also, I mean, our coworkers, by the way, we work with some of the bigger names in hockey fighting history, with John Scott and Jay Rosehill, and the list just continues to grow, and it is going to continue to grow. By the way, there's a little bit of insider knowledge for you. So
Ooh.
it's unbelievable, the experience that is living this life, being able to rub shoulders with these guys. At the same time, it's a grind, and it's a job just the same, and we have to we have to deal with everything that comes at us. So it's just it's an absolute blast. It's an absolute pleasure every day to wake up and just be able to talk and think hockey. That's the long and the short of it. And I get to be creative every day, and I get to make people laugh, which is a ton of fun too.
Yeah, well, your memes on the Hockey Fights Instagram have just been perfect lately. I've been loving them.
Hey, I appreciate that, and we do have I have welcomed a new member to the team over at Hockey Fights. We've had many contributors in the past. When David Singer ran the website, he had a team of about 6 or 7 people that were plugging in the leagues behind the scenes with him. That went down to 1 when I took over, and it was myself and one other gentleman named Chili. Chili moved on this past summer, and we welcomed in Josh from Oilers Nation. I don't know if Josh wants me to put out his full name, so I'll just say Josh from Oilers Nation. He's known as Post Cologne on social media. And yes, and so Post Cologne will be joining the mix. He's been clipping all of my AHL, CHL, all those fights. He's the man behind the scenes there for me, and him and I together are going to become I think a nice little dynamic duo of Hockey Fight social media. And we're coming for those other teams. We've already passed the Florida Panthers, the Arizona Coyotes, and the Ottawa Senators in social media following.
Wow, you guys passed a Canadian team in social media following. Like that, you guys are way cooler than anyone else right now.
barely a Canadian team. No, I'm just joking. I love Ottawa too. I think Ottawa is an absolute blast, and they have a fun team. That is a team that I'm really excited to watch in the next couple of years.
Yeah, they have been they have been a fun team to watch when they're winning, and not so fun when they're losing. But the Ottawa Senators are going to be good in the next couple of years.
Come on in, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, please. Speaking of celebrities in hockey, just like how big is like somebody like Hank Green, Joe Rogan's talked about the NHL, and obviously Ryan Reynolds recently. Like, how much of an impact does this have on hockey?
Yeah, I think hockey has over the pandemic done a good job of really coming out of it with a plan, so to speak, and they've really executed on it. Before the pandemic, I'm sure you remember, I remember the Montreal Canadiens advertising for season ticket sales for the first time since like the 1920s. I think it was during the Great Depression that was the last time they'd advertised before that. So, I mean, hockey was in a bit of trouble. Hockey is in a lot of trouble, I think, behind the scenes, and we've seen that with Hockey Canada hearings and all that good nonsense. But I just think that hockey in the NHL has done a really good job, and a really they've shot their shot a lot. I'm a big believer in taking your shots and just getting those at bats in. And I appreciate you saying that about Hockey Fights and the memes that I put out there, but I have put out some really stupid stuff too. And some people laugh at it and most people hate on me for it. But I just think that the NHL has put out some really stupid stuff recently, but at least they're trying different stupid things. Yeah. And that's the main message that I would say to the NHL. And that's why they're getting the attention that they are getting.
Yeah, I think the big thing right now is like the Jets, they have a girl doing social media right now. She's, I don't know, maybe 23, 24, and just killing it with what she's doing. And looking at Buffalo right now, they've been doing these really absurd memes lately. Like, I think Kennedy described him as Wanye.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the Arizona Coyotes and the New Jersey Devils too. the social media accounts, some of them seem to be recognizing that there is a market for grittiness, and there is a market for just instantaneous reaction that is just silly, and it's just fun. And we're having fun again as a sport, which is, I know it's dangerous to say, but it seems like the sport might be having a little bit of fun again.
Yeah, well, especially in the NHL. North America has just been so boring. And when like you went to Europe to watch hockey, what's the difference between North American fans and European fans?
Well, anytime anybody asks me this question, the first thing I say is the NHL is doing a piss poor job at their marketing over in Europe. The fact that when I was in Europe, I was there in Leon Draisaitl's hometown, and they sold out of Edmonton Oilers gear in the first period, or the first two periods of the game against the Clone Sharks. Like, to me, that's just, yes, you've made your mistake there, but like, this isn't the first time they'd gone to Europe and they were having that issue. So to my European brethren and sisters, I hear you, and I keep that fact. When it comes to the fans in Europe, it's a different level of fandom and dedication. You can't truly understand what it is to be a fan. And I say this as a fan of the Edmonton Oilers, and I was watching their games at 3:00 in the morning in the 2006 playoff run. You can't truly be a fan of a team unless you're watching it while everybody else is sleeping. There's a different kind of isolation. There's a different kind of, like, I don't know. It's just a dedication that is just, it's beyond anybody unless you've experienced it. And so I have so much respect and adoration for our European fans, and our on the other side of the pond too, our Asian and Australian and all those countries. Anybody that isn't watching the game at a normal work time, you've got a different level of dedication and a different level of fan there.
I was in New Zealand for 2.5 months, and I was watching Oilers games at 3:00 in the afternoon. And it was the best. A Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I'm going to have my beer and just sit out on the patio and enjoy the sun.
And everybody around you has no idea why you're like you are. You're not, no clue as to the level that you are, but it's just, I don't know. There's just something so beautiful about that. There's something so poetic about it to see that fandom.
Yeah, I got in trouble a couple of times in New Zealand because I would show up to work a little bit late because I'd stayed up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning watching Team Canada do their thing when it was
right.
Oh man, that was a brutal Team Canada in 2018, but
yeah,
I was all in on him.
Hey, you gotta represent the country.
Oh yeah, well, getting some New Zealand friends to watch curling, that was absolute madness because they didn't understand. Yeah, but
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
the beautiful game.
Oh, a huge game. Love curling. And I think I got some New Zealanders into it. Is there ever been a comment that stood out for you? Just with people hating on hockey fights itself?
Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say I had a folder of comments that have just been outrageous. The social media is full of some people that are just upset at the world, and they're just unloading on you. And so no, I've definitely heard some outrageous things. I'm trying to think if there's anything funny that comes to mind. No, not really. I love like, I get a small amount of like sick joy when the players will comment on our posts about their own fights, and but it's not even just that they're commenting on it, it's that they're giving adoration to the other guy even 15 years later, or they're joking about the stupid move that they made that ended up getting them knocked out. Like, that kind of stuff is what just really fills me with such pride to be able to be a part of something. I know I wasn't the person that created hockeyfights.com. That is David Singer, and I will thank him till the end of time for entrusting the Nation Network with this property, and in fact through that, entrusting it to me. It's been an absolute blast. And so, yeah, I would say for sure when the players are interacting with my content or our content, and they are giving props to each other or ribbing each other for different things.
Yeah, I assume it's a big day when you see one of those blue check marks show up as following you now.
Well, for us, it's become kind of old news, Angus. We're pretty used to it by now. No, it's always a blast. We have fun, and now Josh coming in and giving some of the younger crew and the less experienced too with the AHL some more exposure. We are going to be tagging more of those guys, and so we will be giving more and more people a platform and more people a place to show off. And at least you see these guys and you say that they're throwing caution to the wind and they're going forward, even knowing what we know now. And it shouldn't be all for naught, in my opinion. And so, hockey fights aren't for everybody, but hockeyfights.com is available to anybody. And so that's what I would always like hockey fights to be. And I hope it always stays around, whether it's with me or the next person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the day if it ever gets shut down is going to be a very sad day for me. I don't know how many hours
I won't be at the company. They'd have to take it from my cold dead hands, but yeah, no, it's I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon, because the reality is, if fighting does go out of the game, like so many say it will, you're gonna have hockeyfights.com to be able to come back and watch that stuff on. So
yeah, and
it's always gonna be there.
And I said the exact same thing with Jets Nation. They took it away for about 2 months, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just do it for free. This is I miss my Jets Nation.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Hey man, if you love something and you really want to work at it, like I've always wanted to work for the Nation Network, so I said I'll do whatever it takes. So this is where we're at. Is there an NHLer that you would like to go have dinner with?
Ooh, that's yes, there is. There's so many for sure. I've always really been fascinated by the mind behind Curtis Gabriel. Former NHLer, now retired. He just retired from pro hockey this past offseason. Just a really interesting fellow off of the ice. For me, for most of the people, I don't like to meet my heroes per se. I'm a believer in, you just leave that to mystery and believe that most of them are just exactly what you believe them to be. Yeah, so I would say, like, if I had to go back, I would love to, and this is just an Oilers fan geeking out, I would love to have had a chance to meet Dave Semenko.
Fair. Okay. I on a hypothetical with that one, then, if you got to have that opportunity, where would you take him for dinner in Edmonton?
Oh, well, if I'm being a good company man, because they are a wonderful partner of ours, I would go to Soho here in Edmonton. But if Soho was, packed as it usually is, I will say, oh man, I think I'd have to take him to meet and off White Ave, and him and I just crush the entire barbecue menu while we shoot the breeze over some steaks.
Yeah, a White Ave classic. If you're going out to Edmonton, go stop at Meat. It's well worth it. Also, Little Brick, so that way I can promote the company too.
Yep. There you go.
Go get your coffee from Little
Dog
Brick.
Patch.
And Dog Patch. Yeah, you got 3 restaurants to go. This is where you want to go for your Edmonton reviews.
Yep.
Have you? What's been your favorite memory of being in the building for something big during a hockey game?
Well, that is a great question, and it's one of my favorite stories. So when I was younger, we just couldn't afford tickets at the time, and so we would get gifted tickets every once in a while. And the gentleman that used to do the Saturday morning cartoon show on CTV Edmonton, he was like a children's cartoon hero. He lived at the end of my street, and so he ended up getting tickets all the time. And one time he gave us tickets to a Sharks and Oilers preseason game, and I'll never forget it because Igor Ulanov tried to kill a guy. He like swung his stick at the guy's head and got an intent to injure penalty, which I didn't know was a penalty at the time. And I just thought that was the greatest thing as a kid. It's like, oh, they can actually try to hurt each other in this game. I'm in. And then I will always remember Jason Arnott. I think it was the end of the second period, just after Igor Ulanov had gotten this intent to injure penalty. Young rookie Arnott just flips the bird skating backwards off the ice. And and I'm a little kid. I couldn't have been 6 or 7 years old. And there I am. I'm also tossed up my double salute to the San Jose Sharks. And I was all in from that moment on. I was hooked. So yeah, that would be my favorite memory for sure.
Oh, that's a beauty right there.
Yeah.
No, and the best part is there's no camera, there's no recordings of this whatsoever because it was preseason, so they can't even doubt me. You just have to find the game sheet.
Yeah, you just have to believe in it. Is there a moment in hockey that you haven't seen that you're like, wow, I wish I had seen that one live?
I wish I had been in Edmonton for the Heritage Classic for sure. That was one that I'm excited, and I've heard the rumor is that we're getting one possibly next year in Edmonton. And so I'm really fingers crossed that I can put together a couple of mortgage payments and get that. But I would say that one for sure. And then I always have regrets. Living in Halifax, I was working as a bouncer at the time, and I really should have just gotten a credit card and maxed it out and gone to Carolina for one of the 06 final games. Because silly me, I told myself at the time, I was like, this is just one of many. We're gonna be right back here, no problem. We got Chris Pronger, that's an automatic. We've got Michael Pekka, he's automatic. Dwayne Rollison's gonna be back and healthy. This team is fine. So I sold myself on it being just fine, and oh boy, did that one come back to bite me in the butt.
Yeah, what are we at? Year 17 of waiting for the Oilers to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Angus, I can turn off this Zoom at any time.
You can.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
But hey man, I've been waiting for my Stanley Cup for just as long. So
fair enough. Enough.
Yeah, I bled copper and blue for many, many years. So just I had my fallout with the Oilers, and I stand where I stand.
Respect. You know what? I'm a firm believer in, like, especially when I'm at Oilers games, in interacting with the other team's fans. I think that everybody should be encouraged to be at anything they want, being a fan of whoever the hell they want, because at the end of the day, your money cashes just the same as mine and keeps the lights on. So yeah, I don't care. Like, I love to have banter with other fans. I think that that's the spice of life. But at the end of the day, I don't hate you because you hate the Edmonton Oilers. That's just silly. I have nothing, no bearing or any weight in any boardroom at OEG. So until that day happens, I don't have any personal identity with this team.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. I mean, like, I've met some of the best fans when I've been the away fan. So I've gone to both Calgary and Winnipeg at being an Oilers fan. And man, I've met some of the nicest people. And like Ryan's, the game that I went to in Calgary as an Oilers fan, Ryan Smith scored 2 goals. The Edmonton Oilers won 2-0. Guy bought me a beer. It was fantastic. Like, I was just like, oh, Calgary fans aren't that bad. They're really nice, actually. So
yeah, I think I've only really ever had an issue with, well, I will say I was in Montreal, and I was in pretty deep into Montreal territory, and I was celebrating pretty heavily, and I did get told quite a bit that I was too much, in some not so pleasant ways, but that's, it is what it is, and that's, you have fun with that.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, it's the only time I've really ever had issues with people from other fan bases is at Oilers games, like after a win, and I feel it's because they've been like just getting attacked. I recently had an issue with a couple of Penguins fans, and I was kind of surprised. Like I said, like, you guys have had it so good for so long. I don't understand the upset. But then you remember that they're just taking it at like left, right, and center from all the other fans around them, and so they're just kind of, they're outbursting. It is what it is.
Yeah. You guys have done like a couple trips down to Vegas. Like, how have those been, being like a whole swarm of Oilers fans deep in Vegas territory?
It's pretty unreal. It's I tell people all the time, like, as long as you're around people that you share a commonality with, you're kind of your friends to begin with. And that's just what these trips are every time. We've been so lucky to have, never have an issue, never have any problems. Everybody is just an absolute riot of a good time. And the other teams' fans and the other teams' businesses and the other cities, they get it. We went down to Nashville last year, just close to the end of the season, and we brought 20 Oiler fans, or some, I think it was 17 Oiler fans down with us, and we had an absolute blast down there. We put on a party and we put out the call to Oiler fans, and over 100 Oiler fans showed up to this bar in Nashville to watch them play the game before. And so, I mean, it's just, hockey fans are the best. I surround myself with Oiler fans, and so I love Oiler fans. But we're learning, I think, with the Oiler fans what it is to be a diehard, and we're going to start to be able to extrapolate that out to the other nations. And I'm so excited. I'm really hopeful for the ability to next year be able to put on even like a Flames Nation trip somewhere, and just start to kind of get that travel stuff going everywhere, because I really do believe that we all do share a commonality, even if it is, Oiler fan versus Jets fan. We do share a commonality in being hockey fans, and we can bond over that, or we can be mad about that, but people really choose to bond over that on these trips.
Yeah. Well, and like, just like, I've traveled the world and I've worn a McDavid jersey through Australia, New Zealand, and man, the amount of Canadians that'll come up to, oh, whereabouts you're from Edmonton, right? And just you end up having that commonality of just being Canadian, and it's just like, yeah, that's the only reason I wear this, is like just to be a beacon of Canadian to somebody that needs it. So
yeah, I went to Oktoberfest. The only time I've ever been off the North American continent was to go follow the Oilers over to Germany and then into Sweden. And I went to Oktoberfest and I wore my McDavid jersey inside those tents. And the sheer amount of people that, first of all, knew who McDavid was, which was astounding. And then the second of all, for all those fans, like you said, and all those people that just recognize that as a piece of home, and so they came running over to talk to a Canadian about our commonalities that we had. It was an absolute blast.
Yeah, and especially talking commonalities of being across the country. I mean, like, good old Alberta, you're rough and tumble, and then just talking to somebody out from Nova Scotia or Vancouver Island, it's like, yeah, we're all the same out here. We just a little bit different, but yeah, it's all the same. We're all Canadian.
Yep, that's exactly
it.
I
love it. You also had like basically the first reverse retro Oilers jersey without really knowing it. How did it feel to be like, wow, I kind of half came up with that design and they just followed suit?
Yeah, it's weird. It's I said it last night when they finally unveiled it. It's, to me, I've never seen anybody wear the same jersey that I did. It was available to literally anybody that could find it, but it was deep within the annals of a website that I won't give clout to on Jets Nation Radio, but from China. And yeah, so like, full disclosure, when I would go to games last year at Rogers Place wearing it, I was getting stopped by suits walking around the concourses asking me where I had gotten that from, because I'm guessing they were curious as to how they saw that on a boardroom window or on a boardroom wall. Then now it's being worn by some random guy in their stadium. But yeah, it was a neat experience. It was a fun experience. It was really funny because we actually took a trip down to Calgary. We hosted 20 Oiler fans at the Battle of Alberta there at the end of October, and I wore it in Calgary, and the reactions down there were really fascinating. Most Flames fans enjoyed it, lot of them were confused because I have Moss on the back of it, for Joey Moss, I know you know this, but your listeners may not. The longtime locker room attendant of both the Edmonton Oilers and the Edmonton Elks CFL team, and so a lot of barely a CFL team. Yes, Angus, I know it's barely at this point, but they are in fact still in the league. But anyways, he's a hero of mine for what he was able to overcome and what he was able to really just kind of establish for here in this city. And so it was a lot of fun to wear that jersey all over the place and confuse a lot of people and get a lot of stares and that kind of thing. But I'm also excited that everybody else now has it and they can enjoy it as well too.
Yeah, sorry. It's been hard to be an Elks fan for the last couple of years being here in Winnipeg. So
yeah, hey, I totally get it. I actually stopped watching the team for a little bit over some Joey Moss stuff, and I'm back now. But it's a long road back to the top when you're at the bottom like we are, and we sure as shoot are at the bottom right now.
But hey, back to back, baby. Grey Cup can come back here.
There you go.
Yeah. So, what is the best reverse retro in your opinion in the NHL right now?
I think I would, without having them in front of me, I would have to say this year I like did LA did a purple and gold one, right? That's this season's,
I believe,
not last year. Anytime LA does anything with purple and gold, I'm all in, because I'm a big believer in teams not wearing blue, red, and white. Sorry, but those are the three colors that are just, white and black are not really colors, but I find that those are the colors that are just too common in this league. So I actually really like the Dallas Stars jersey. If I had to pick one of the batch, I would say Dallas was the neatest looking for me. Craziest jersey out there has to be the Tampa Bay Lightning one, though. That is something else. I remember those graphics from when I used to watch the news in my childhood. So yeah, weird seeing it on a jersey.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bizarre one for sure. And yeah.
But respect them for trying it. And the same thing with the Ducks last time with the goalie duck, or Darkwing Duck, or whatever his name is, coming out of the ice. It was, or Wild Wing, that's his name.
Yes.
Wild Wing coming out of the ice there. Have some fun with it, have a laugh about it, and then move on.
Pretty much, yeah. Shoot, I had some. Sorry. Going back to the days that you've lost like a significant amount of weight within the last few years, correct?
I have. Yeah.
Yes.
So
and it's been a cool journey to watch.
Yeah, thank you. It started out, I was a pretty big guy. Always have been, was called every name in the book in elementary school and junior high. Never let it ever hold me back. Always was a person that would show up to play ball hockey with you or play football or whatever. Yeah, sure, I was wheezing on the sideline after my shifts, but I was there and doing it. But I decided to make a change back in 2018. So started actually in 2017 with the Winnipeg Jets. Funny enough, you guys beat us in a game in here at Rogers Place, 3-0. And confident person that I am in the Edmonton Oilers, I said, no problem. This team, this much talent, they're going to be back in the winning column. No problem. No time. So when we lost to you guys, I think we were 3 games below 500. I said I would wear shorts until the Oilers were above 500 again. Well, cutscene 2, the next season, Oilers Nation actually told me to stop wearing shorts because it was becoming a risk and a liability and a gimmick that they just weren't on board with anymore. So I transitioned from wearing the shorts after every loss, or wearing the shorts until the Oilers won again, into running after every loss for the Edmonton Oilers. And so I had this weird math algorithm where, depending on the number of losses plus the number of games below 500 they were, or above 500, I would run that many kilometers. And I ended up having to run over 200 kilometers the first year. when all was said and done. And then the year after that, I think it was even worse because I had upped my multipliers, and I think I ended up running about 300 kilometers the year after that. So it's well, and so I say running, and I use running as a very liberal term. When I started doing this, I started in Gothenburg, Sweden, after we lost the New Jersey Devils in game 1 of the 2018 season. And I ran a kilometer in 13 minutes. So like that tells you how out of shape, how bad it was. And it's just been a tough slog ever since. And it's a message. Anytime anybody ever asks me what my trick is, there is no trick. That's silly, and I love you for trying to find the golden ticket, but it just doesn't exist. And the way to do it for me has been just trying to make positive adjustments to my life 1% at a time every day, and it's worked. I started it. I talked to my doctor actually just about a month ago. I started this journey at about 450 pounds, and I currently, as I'm speaking to you, sit at 269 pounds.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's a pretty unbelievable kind of thing to look back on now. I don't think even really, I can honestly tell you, I didn't really notice anything until even just this last year. You're still kind of, you're always your worst own critic, right? And one of the things I really had to work on was my self-speak, and the way that I talk to myself about everything that I do. I microanalyze. I analyze a lot of things that I do in my day-to-day basis, and I beat myself up. I was a 10-round George LaRock, Dave Semenko, Tiger Williams, put them all together, and that was me against myself every night. And so I started working on that, and I started working on just stopping myself and catching myself when I was doing that stuff, and really celebrating just small victories. Hey, you know what? I ran a 13-minute kilometer yesterday, and my next kilometer was 12 minutes and 53 seconds. That's fucking phenomenal. Like that little bit of a move towards the right direction is all you need. And the next run, if it's a little bit worse, I don't beat myself up because of that either. And it's just a case of making sure you kind of keep yourself on that even keel and keep going forward. And yeah, it's been an absolute blast. And I love, obviously you can hear it in my voice, I love talking about it, and I can talk until I'm blue in the face. But if anybody hears this and they would like to reach out, I would be more than happy to talk to you anytime, day or night. If you want tips, advice, you just want somebody in your corner that's backing you up. I'm lucky enough to have the following that I do on social media and the interaction with those followers that I do. And I'd love to be able to do that for other people as well.
Yeah, when I said you're one of the nicest guys on the internet, I genuinely mean it, because it's like your Instagram is have a nice day or something like that. And it's just very universal. Well, just like, I will have a good day.
Yeah, I just think that there's life is too exhausting to be angry and frustrated all the time. And don't get me wrong, I get angry and frustrated all the time, but I try to just kind of, let it slough off and move on to the next thing. And like I said, when it comes to myself and it comes to my own kind of personal growth, it's just 1% every day, get a little bit better. And if it doesn't happen today, it'll sure as shoot happen tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I love that. That's puts a big old smile on my face. Okay, final question for you. If you were to start an NHL franchise with McDavid or Draisaitl, who would it be?
Ooh, you can't not say Connor McDavid at this point. The man he's showing this year that he can do more. Every year we ask the question, is this all that Connor McDavid has to offer? And the answer is a resounding no. You're an idiot if you think that, because he's just unbelievable. I sat on our podcast during the COVID shortened season preview, and I said Connor McDavid's getting 100 points, and all of my co-hosts laughed at me. They mocked me openly, and sure as shoot, I was wrong. Connor got 105 points that year. So it's unbelievable. It's I don't know. It's just it's a blast.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, love watching McDavid highlights. Even not being an Oilers fan, you can't deny that guy has an unbelievable talent. And there's another kid named Connor who's coming up behind him who's going to make McDavid look bad.
Well,
It's
hey,
insane.
that's the rumor, eh? It's pretty shocking when you think after McDavid, we've had some pretty big hype trains coming into the draft. Alex Lafreniere is one that just is enigmatic to me. It's a shocking thing to look at still. And now you look at what's going on in Seattle with Connor or with Shane Wright and the dramatics there, and Montreal with Slafkovsky. So it's just it's I don't know. It's the drafts are a fascinating thing too.
They really are. And like I thought McDavid was going to be a big bust back in the day, and I was like, I want that Jack Eichel guy. He's the ticket to the Oilers' success.
Well, I again I have to toot my own horn because at the start of this season I said Jack Eichel I think is going to be in that Hart conversation, and the Vegas Golden Knights are absolutely running away with our division, and nobody outside of myself saw that. And it's I don't know, it's just Jack I believe was a victim of what is Buffalo, and just like there's players in Edmonton that were victims of what is Edmonton during the decade of darkness. Sometimes you just get thrown into a vortex and there's nothing that you can do about it. And you look at the way things ended for Jack. I mean, that was some absolute asinine behavior by that Buffalo Sabres organization towards the end, in my opinion. Not letting a human being get a medical procedure done. We don't need to go deep into that, but I hope for all the best for Jack. I just hope it's not at the expense of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, really. Just keep Vegas from winning because I don't want to see him in the third round.
That's exactly.
They made the Jets look real sloppy there. So, where can we find you on social media in case folks aren't following you just yet?
Well, if you don't follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it's at the Danalytic. And then I guess that's pretty much it. I'm on TikTok, but TikTok hates hockey fights, so Dan hates TikTok. So that's kind of the deal there. But you can look me up there at the Danalytic. And then if you ever want to reach out, you can always reach out to me at Hockey Fights or on Oilers Nation's social medias as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your hour, Dan. And I look forward to talking to you and hopefully meeting you sometime in the future.
Absolutely, Angus. It's always a pleasure, and anytime, my friend.
Excellent. Talk to you soon.